So what is a combinator? In CSS, we have selectors to style elements, and this is something really you should already be familiar with. In this simple example, here we're styling all divs red, so the div is the actual selector. So let's have a look at an example of a combinator and its correct syntax. In this example, we're using the child combinator, which uses the more than symbol. And it's better to read it from right to left. So we have the P selector, and then we have the combinator, and then we have the div selector. So we're reading it as we're selecting all the paragraph tags, which are the direct children of the divs. Types of combinators. We have four. Firstly, we have the descendant combinator, and the character we use is a space. Next, we have the direct child combinator, and we use a more than symbol. Thirdly, the adjacent siblings combinator, and we use a plus sign for that. And lastly, the general siblings combinator, and we use a tilde character for that. Structure of HTML code. So on the left-hand side, we have some markup, HTML markup, and on the right-hand side, we have a tree diagram which represents that markup. And as you can see, it's just like a family tree. Let's define some terms. Firstly, we have the ancestor, and in this case, the body tag is the ancestor to all the other elements. Next, we have descendant. So in the example we're going to use, the descendants of the div is the unordered list and all the list items. Next, we have parent and child. So the div is the parent to the UL, and the UL, unordered list, is the child to the div. Next, we have siblings. Siblings share the same parent, and in this example, the list items are all siblings. The descendant combinator. So here we have some markup, and we have two divs. And the aim is to style the president's names only. So how do we do this? Let's take some examples and see if we can do it. So let's just style the divs by itself. Give it a color red. Save and refresh the page. And we can see that we're not just styling the president's names, we're styling everything because everything is inside those two divs. Okay, let's change it. Let's just style the first div and give it a class of presidents. Again, it's not what we want. We've got everything inside that div, but it's not correct. Okay, let's style the paragraph tag. And we see all the paragraphs have become red, and it's still not what we want because we just want to style the president's names by themselves. And that's where the descendant combinator comes into play. So we know that the president's names are in that div of presidents, so we do that. And we know it's the p tag that we want. So we want all the p tags inside the president's class. And there we go. We've got the president's names in red. So here we have a tree diagram which represents that markup. And we can see we want the two p tags, the two paragraph tags, which are the descendants of the div with class presidents. The direct child combinator. So we have a similar markup to last time, but this time we have an extra div, a div within a div. And again, our aim is to style just the president's names only into that red color. Okay, let's give it a go. Let's just give the div that color red and see what happens. Save, refresh the page, and we see everything turns into red. Not what we want, because everything is within those divs. Now let's just change the first div, the presidents. And again, it's not what we want. It changed everything within that div, even the div within the div. Let's change it just to the paragraph tag. And it highlights everything, not what we want, because everything is held within the paragraph tag. Let's select all the paragraphs within that class of precedence. And again, it's selecting everything, even that div within the div. And that's where the direct child combinator comes into play, because we only want to set within that div and not the div within the div. And you see here, that's what we've done. We've highlighted just the precedence name here. So here's the tree diagram that represents that markup. And as you can see, we want to select these two paragraphs, which are the children of this div of class of precedence. And these are the direct children. We do not want to choose this paragraph, which is not a direct child. The adjacent sibling combinator. Some more markup now. This time we only have one div and two paragraphs after that div. And our aim is to style this line, make this line red, this line here. Okay, so let's give it a go. Let's style all the paragraphs red. Of course, this is not something that we want. Save that, refresh the page. And no, we're not styling just that line only. So if we look at the markup, we can see that this div and these two paragraphs, they're siblings to the body tag. They're all siblings. And that's where the adjacent combinator comes into play, because that will style the next sibling. So if we put paragraph adjacent to the div, or paragraph adjacent to the class of precedence, we get what we want. So I think this diagram will help a lot to understand what we're saying. So we want this p tag here to be selected. And we see all these, the div, this p, are all siblings. And that's what the adjacent combinator does. It's the next sibling to what we're saying. So we want this paragraph, which is the next sibling to the div of precedence. I think if you pause and have a look, it might make more sense. The general sibling combinator. So we have the same markup as last time, but this time we want to style the last two lines, this line and this line, in that red color. So let's give it a go. So if we style all the paragraph tags, that color red, not what we want, we save it, refresh the page. All the paragraphs are in that red color. We just want the last two lines. If you use the adjacent combinator, like we did last time, then it just styles that third line as so, but we want the last line also. And that's where the general siblings combinator comes into play. Change that to that squiggly line, which is the general siblings combinator. And now we can see both lines highlighted. So the tree diagram will certainly help here. So we have the siblings of div, p and p. And we want the paragraph siblings, generally all of them, after the div sibling.